We're back. I have now distressed my whole little booklet around the edges of my journal, and I have also distressed around the edges of a couple of journaling cards and a couple of tags. So I was looking through some of my papers, and this paper was part, and this is actually paper, not cardstock. This paper was part of a pack that I picked up at a thrift store. It was a camping, fishing type, outdoor themed packet. And I thought I'd go with something a little more rustic and kind of fallish for this one. Just because it's very cloudy and dark outside today. It's actually been raining for a couple of days. So I thought it was kind of fitting that we went with a fall theme. And it being October, this is kind of what I went to. So what I did with the papers is I measured my booklet, not with the tab, but from the back to the front, and it's 4 inches. So all I did was take a couple of 12 by 12 papers. I think I had 2, and then this is the third one. And I just cut them at the 4 inches. So I ended up with 3 different strips of paper. And then I would cut it to the size I needed this way. So this was about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 5/8 is about the size that I needed going this way. And then as I got inside, the same thing, I would just measure, and it's about 4 inches by the 5/3. But then when I would get to here, I would have to punch out that notch. I also did a little notch on this pocket so that when I went in, I could actually get a hold of the card. So I figured there's 3 of these pockets from the top, and there's 2 that are this way. So I made myself 4 pockets. I want to make sure I put a pocket in each of the top pockets. And then in my other book, I actually made a little booklet to go in one of these, and I think I may do that again. And then I have another little card that I'll make for here. And then I have these tags. Now these should probably be covered with the paper that you want to cover these first, and then we will insert them into the journal, whichever way you want to put them in. We'll glue them in, and then we will do the booklet, because when you put this in, you're going to actually notch around that little tag just a little bit, so that when it's closed, it still looks like a full piece. The paper will go down and around it. So we should probably work on the tags first. The journaling cards we can do last. And then we will work on covering our actual booklet. So for this, what I actually did was I cut all my strips from my 2 pieces of paper, and I cut them into 5 3/4. And I think I'm just going to do every other one. So my cover is going to be this paper. And then when I flip this guy over and close it, I can either leave it with this little name and number so that it's a file folder journal, or I will cover it with some paper. And I may do that. I haven't decided yet. I'll do that at the very end. And then I took a scrap of, this is an old book page, I believe, and that's going to be my book plate there. And then I'm going to actually put another piece of paper here as well, and that will, whatever I'm going to call the journal, will be my title. So I have that little piece set aside, and then I've just gone ahead and cut all these little pieces to that 4 inch. I think it's actually 4 inches minus an 1/8, and then my 5 5/8. So it's going like that. So you will see that little bit of basics, but again, I'm okay with that because I know I've recycled something, so I knew that that would show up. And then for this one, the same thing. I cut it, and then I just laid the paper down, and because this little bit is showing, I marked the tops of my thumb punch, and then I just kind of marked the bottom, and then I punched the punch. And then what you want to do, here, let me get a scrap piece of paper. So when you do your thumb punch, let's just say it's that one, like that. It's going to be exactly the same size when you pull it down. See, it's going to actually touch the edges. So all I do is take my thumb punch and I put it on, and I just move it over so that a tiny little bit of the right hand side is showing like that. Let's see if I can get a little closer here. And then I punch it again. And of course this punch won't cut very well with this thin paper, but I'll just trim that out. So that when I set this on here and pull it back, it's not actually touching the edges. See, I've got it so that it has a little, so you just want to cut your normal thumb punch and then move it over about 1/8 of an inch just on one side and recut that little edge so that it'll give you that little space that you want around the top there. So this one probably could have been cut back a little bit more, but that's, so I'm just going to do them every other page. These, and then I've actually found some old, this is from an old exercise book. I had a couple of sheet pages left, and this will actually go on here, so I will have some writing space. Now this one I might do something a little different for these pockets. I might add, let's see, I might do something like this with a little thing there and then put a picture here, or maybe take a bigger size like that. And then again, add a picture or something to the bottom, or move it up here, maybe put something on the bottom. I haven't decided. I didn't want to put a full sheet on this side and cut it down. Then it would just look too pagey. So these ones I think I might do something else with. So first let's work on those tags. So let's put these all back together in order. So I've cut all these into 4" by 5 and 5/8 sizes, and then I will glue these in at a later date. And then this is the excess. So I ended up using 3. I needed 12 pieces on the insides of this, plus I needed my front cover and my back cover. So I needed 14 pieces. And 12, you would get 12 out of 2 12 by 12 pieces of paper. So I needed my front cover. So if you want to do your front and back cover in a different cardstock, that's fine. Then you don't need the 2 12 by 12 pieces. But I just decided to use up this paper. So I have this out of my 3rd piece of 12 by 12. And I'm going to do that tags. I think I would like to have my tags with a paper cover. And then, like I say, on the inside, I will maybe put, so that piece won't be showing, but maybe I'll put a little piece of writing paper on the inside like that, so you can actually use it. So I think I'm going to cover these with some of this paper. Now I know this inside page is going to be the green with the dots, so I'm going to cover this tag with the pine cones. And what I need is, let's see, so 3 3/4 by 2 1/4. So I'm going to cut a 2 1/4 strip out of this. And then when I put that on there, like that, and I said my 3 was about 3 3/4. So let's cut that off. So that will go on there like this. And then what I do is I just take my pencil and I mark where those lines are. And I get my scissors and I want to cut it about 1/8 of an inch on the inside of that pencil line, following the same direction the pencil line's going in. So now when I put this on here, you will see the whole outer edge. So once I glue that on, this is what I was talking about. That's why I punched my hole first. Then when I flip it over, I can repunch that hole. And I didn't have to, you can put the paper on and punch the hole afterwards. But I'm going to put the glue on this, and I'm going to make sure I don't go right to the edges because my paper doesn't go right to the edges. So I'll put some glue on here. And the reason I do it on the card is because I don't want to have glue oozing out the hole. I've done that before. All right, so we're just going to set this little guy on here, position it like that. And then I'll get my hole punch and I'll just pop that hole out there. So when I put this guy on here, and it will have the, oops, Where did I go and put my papers? Here. We'll have the green on there like that. And then it'll have the tag. See how I have to cut that little notch out of the paper? So I put the tag on first, and then I cut the little notch out so it will cover this piece of cardstock, the file folder that isn't glued to the page. So this will be notched out just 1/8 of an inch because I want it to cover it, but I'll show you how I do that. And then for the inside of the tag, I think I'm going to just do the paper like that, instead of putting some more of the colored paper on. I'm just actually going to use the lined paper. And I like to try and make sure I go right to the corners. You don't want any corners flipping up in the middle of journaling. So we're going to position that on there. There we go. So there's our first tag, and that will go there. Now I'm going to work on the last tag, and again I have to figure out which paper is going on that page. So let's take that off. So it's going to be green pine cone, green pine cone, green pine cone. So the pine cones are usually on the right. Green pine cone. I think I'm going to do my middle tag here. Here. So it's going to go on the green. So again, I can use the pine cone. So I'm going to use this again. And I'm just going to cut it at that 3 1/4. You know what? Just double check. Always make double check. 3 3/4. See? There we go. And that will go on there. And again, I'm going to make my little pencil lines like that. Take my scissors and cut them about 1/8 of an inch on the inside of that pencil line, following the same direction. And then that will go on there like that. So let's glue that guy on. And then we're going to punch the hole. Okay, so that will go on to this side. And I like to have the tag so that it opens up this way. If you do it this way, sometimes it gets caught when the book opens up and it'll flap open. So I like to have my tags going that way. So we've got tag number 2, which goes in the middle. So there's 1 and 2. I want to glue the paper on the back. And again, this is just scraps from an old notebook that I bought at the dollar store. I like to use this because it's a nice ivory color. It does have signatures, so I do take it all apart and I use the signatures in some of my travel journals as well. But I just like the coloring of the paper, and it's not really flimsy like some of the paper that you get. So it's a nice kind of paper. Okay, so there's tag number 2. And then the last tag is going to be going on this side, and I'm going to put it up at the top, and this is going to be on a pine cone page. So I need to use the green paper for this one. So again, we're going to cut at that 2 1/4 strip. My 3 3/4. Let's get this out of the way. So that should work fine. Oh, I cut a little too short. Let's try that again. Let me double chart this. This one is 4 inches. Okay. Perfect. Okay, and then the same thing, you want to mark your pencil lines as to where the angle is, and then cut 1/8 on the inside, same angle. And that will go on there. So let's go ahead and glue these guys together, and then I'm going to glue these tags in, and then we're going to start working on our papers. And once we get going with the gluing, it will really start to take shape, and you'll get to see what the book's going to look like. So we've got our little piece on there. We're going to punch our hole. There we go. And then we're going to glue this guy on the back. And then we'll go ahead and glue these tags in. So it's another rainy day here. It did rain yesterday. We did get a little bit of sunshine, but not much. And then I took my mother-in-law out last night, and I put that upside down. No, I didn't. Yes, I did. No, I didn't. Okay. Distracted there. I took my mother-in-law out last night, and we went to see Downton Abbey, the movie. And she's from England, and she was really thrilled. She has doesn't like to drive at night, so I took her to the movies, and we sat there and watched Downton Abbey, and it was fantastic. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. A lot of happy endings. I won't tell you any more. But I think they tried to end it on a happy note for everybody, so it was really nice. So there's our back tag, and I put that in. See, now when I go to put my last page in, which will be the pinecone page, and this one will probably just fit right inside. I might not have to cut it, but see how it, you want to cover up that last little piece. Alrighty, so let's go to the front one, and we'll do the front one, and we're going to add some glue to our little flap. And we're going to glue that into the bottom. And you want to get it as close to the edge as possible, but not, you want to leave that little bit of a gap there. You want to leave your, you know, your 1/8 inch gap, and you want to make sure that it's even across the bottom. Get out of the way. Stay. Maybe I will just throw one of these on it to hold it in place for a second while I glue that next one in. Okay, so then 1, 2, 3. So then I'm going to do one on this one as well, right there. Or maybe we can, actually, let's put this one in the middle. Right there. And you make sure that you can open and close your book really well. All right, and let's get another one of those. Clips and put that on just to hold it in place. And this guy seems to be doing fine. Okay, so we'll let those dry for a second, and let's get together our pages. Got a little bit of a mess going on here. Let's just pull all these little scraps out of the way here. Okay, so now we have our papers. And we can glue the cover on once this is dry. Let's just make sure this guy's dry enough. I just want them to grab, that's the whole. There we go. Okay, so let's start with our, so I've cut these into 4-inch strips, and then my 5 and whatever it was I said, 5 1/2, 5 5/8. Whatever fits whatever you've cut your down to, but I want to leave that little tiny bit of lip around the outside. And I don't have to worry so much about this side because I am going to have something there. So we're going to go ahead and glue this guy on. And this is my cover. There we go. Let's set him down. Perfect. And I do have a brayer, and I like to use there just to give it a good. Now I am going to use this little cover, but you want to make sure this flap is down before you decide where that's going to go. And if you want to add a book plate, and I learned this bad mistake from my lap book that I did, if I want to put a book plate on there, you want to put it on before you put this cover on, because you want to have your little brads sticking through and you want to tape them back. Now I'm going to grab one just to see what it looks like. I might not put a plate on there. I just have to move all my stuff off of my desktop. I have so many things on here that I'm working on. Okay, now I can get at things. Okay, so let's grab a book plate and just see what it would look like with that on there. I kind of like that, actually. I think I might go ahead and do that, and I'll get my brads out. I have these brads I bought at Michael's, and they're kind of brassy colored, and they're nice and long and big enough. I really like these. And I also had some, I can't find them, of course, here they are. These are some leftovers from other things. I think we're just going to use up some of these little ones that I had left over. Maybe not the perfect color, but they will do. And we're just going to grab, that's a silver one. Let's try and grab a darker one on the top. There we go. Let's grab that one. And this one. There. So we're going to use those two brads. And I'm going to go ahead and put this. So first I'm going to glue my paper on where I want it. And should I cut that back a little bit? Let's see. It's going to go on there. I think I might just cut it down a little tiny bit. I think that's a little better. Yes. Okay. So let's glue this on. And again, we're going to hold that my little flap closed because you want to make sure it's centered when the flap is closed. And we're going to glue that on there. And then I'm going to put my book plate on here. And then I'm going to mark it with my pencil, the little holes, like that. Grab my awl. I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to put this on my mat so that when I punch the hole through, I actually have another, here it is, another little punching board that I purchased. And I'm just going to use this because then I can punch right through into the punching board. There, like that. And this one here, there. This is a spongy board from Sizzix. It's a punching board. It's rough on one side and just spongy on the other, and it's perfect for punching holes into your things there. And now I like to add a little bit of glue just to the little tabs, just to kind of hold it in place. And we're going to set that on there. Actually, I'm going to flip it over because I don't want my, oops. There, like that. And we're going to match up those dots. There we go. And then I'm going to pop those. And I wouldn't mind putting a little tiny dot of glue on the top. There. So when I put the brads in, it kind of holds it in place. I'm going to pop that through there. There's one, and that one in there, and there's two. Okay, and then we've got our little tail end sticking out the back there. And I use my awl, And I just slide it down the middle of the brad and then roll it out a bit. Like that. And you really want to flatten these down because you don't want them. Just going to find where the V is here. There we go. I'm going to turn that. There. So you're going to roll that down and out. And then out. Like that. And then I'm going to take a piece of masking tape and I'm just going to cover that so that it doesn't pop through my paper when I put my paper on. So put that piece on there and another piece on this side. There. And that just covers up my brad tails. Okay. So there. Learn from my mistakes. Always put your front cover on first before you do anything else so that you can see where, if you're going to put a plate on or something like that, where it's going to go. I'm just going to use my gum ruler and it takes off any excess glue. There we go. Any stickiness. Just roll it along your, there. So when I close this flap, there's my front cover. Okay, and now we're going to get started on the next pieces. Let's put these brads away. Okay, maybe not. They just do not want to go in that bag. There we go. Okay, so put that away. Put it on my glue. Next, we're going to start on the inside. So the next page is going to be this green one. And all I want to do is make sure that when I glue this on, my page is going to close properly. And I will have to probably notch this page just because this book page is pretty big. So just going to mark it with my pencil. And you can almost rub it right against the edge of the tab. So all I'm going to do is cut a simple little strip right here. Right across there. Like that. So that when I put this in place, I have a little bit of room to move it around. There. And then my tab will still close. Alright, so let's glue this guy in. Now I'm not going to show you me gluing every single page in because my video will be hours long fitting in. So I'm going to do a couple that are tricky and then I will go ahead and pause the video and move forward with the rest of them. And again, you want to make sure your book closes. And there. So there's my tab. Then for this one, again, I have my piece of paper and I've just gone ahead and put my paper like this, made a little pencil mark where my tab is, punched my tab, and then in order to get it a little wider, you just go into your punch tab and you move it over onto one of the sides. So let's say the left side, get in there. I just want to cut out a little tiny bit off of that one side. So it wasn't much that I cut off. Anyway, so now it will sit around the hole. So we're going to glue that one in. And always lift your page up because you want to be able to see it fit on each individual page. Each page after you fold it's a little different, so you want to make sure that you've got your paper on there properly. Okay, so there's 1 and 2, and then this one's just a plain one, and this one's just a plain one, and then I'll show you that one as well. So let's quickly do these ones, and then once I get these in, I'll finish it up and then I'll come back and we'll start working on the journaling cards and the edge. So this this one. And again, you want to lift up your book and make sure it's in there properly. I'll quickly do this guy. Whoop. I usually use cardstock, but this paper, like I say, it costs me a couple of bucks, this whole pad, at a thrift store. And it was really nice paper, but it was very outdoorsy and camping, and some of it I just didn't think I'd ever use, but this is the perfect little book to do this in. A nice fall day like that. And you want to make sure it opens and closes. Okay, so there's our next 2 pages, and then this one has the notch. Again, the same thing. You want to, now this cardboard is a little shorter than my other one, so I'm actually going to have my paper go right up to the edge of that cardboard, I think. And then the same thing, I've cut my tab, and then I've just used it to cut it a little bit wider. Okay, so I'm going to glue this in. I'll pause it, and we will get the rest all glued in. It's pretty straightforward. I've showed you every page that's different and unique. Okay, so we'll get this guy in, make sure it flips. Like that, make sure it's nice and level. There we go. Okay, let me finish these pages up and we'll continue on.